taking a look at the Echofix EF-P2 Spring Reverb. At the start of this video, I want to make sure that I disclose a very strong bias that I have. Not a bias because of the sponsored nature of this video. It is sponsored, but I don't take notes on talking points. My opinion is not for sale, and I don't show these videos to the manufacturers before they go live. But rather, I am a massive, massive fan of anything with a VU meter, and I will speak more highly about it if it has one on the pedal. That's true, and I'm fine with it. I love a VU meter. It's classic, it's cool. Even if it's a gimmick, it's rad as hell. But in the Echofix EF-P2 Spring Reverb, it is not a gimmick. This is an analog spring reverb, complete with a little window with a light inside to let you see the springs when the pedal is active. And this VU meter corresponds with the spring drive control right here. This is a spring reverb pedal, a real spring that doesn't sound like any amp reverb I have ever used. Traditionally speaking, when I play with spring reverbs, when I've used spring in the past, especially anything with real spring in it, it typically has that very drippy, surfy, splashy kind of character to it. And in my experience, this is very much not that. This is largely more subtle, depending on how you have that drive control set, but also largely, I think, more versatile. The 2-band EQ for being able to adjust your bass and treble controls, as well as the ability to turn the direct signal through this thing off and on, makes this a really interesting option for pedalboard based amp reverb. But more importantly, I think it makes it a really interesting studio tool. The ability to reamp things from your DAW through an analog set of springs like this offers fascinating ambience and space in a mix that otherwise would not be attained, in my opinion, with like digital spring reverb emulation. You heard on that intro a combination of full wet spring reverb as well as blended dry tone and spring on our various guitars. You heard the reamping of John's really killer pedal steel parts on that song, which huge shout out to Signal Path on here on YouTube. I'm going to link to his channel down below. I highly recommend you check him out as well. But he sent me those tracks and I reamped all of that through the Echofix reverb as well to just amazing, amazing effect. This is obviously a mono reverb pedal, but in that studio workflow, you can do things like reamp the left channel and the right channel separately, giving you completely independent responses from those springs on the two channels, which can be used really effectively with things like our drums, or again, things like that pedal steel if you want that added width. But especially in my kind of current era of songwriting that I'm in right now, I'm finding myself leaning further and further away from the concept of always on reverb. And that's largely because a lot of my reverb pedals are pretty massive sounding. They were originally purchased or obtained for the purpose of big ambient music, and a lot of them can kind of struggle to sit into a more conventional mix. I think what makes this so interesting to me, between that treble control, the balance of that spring drive that can keep things pretty clean and subtle or blown out and angry, and that volume control being a separate control on this, means that this is something that can be very versatile, that can cause a lot of blurriness in your signal where you want it, but also can be used as the kind of subtle spring ambience that you don't totally notice, but when it's gone, it's evident and things feel too dry as a result. It's been a fascinating few weeks with this here in the studio and kind of throwing it on the occasional project and just doing some kind of testing with it. It's really interesting. I'm so used to kind of reaching for plate as my go-to reverb that to reach instead for an analog spring unit and actually find it to be really useful for the sounds I'm going after is something that's very satisfying and is giving me a new twist on my songwriting and the way I'm building kind of largely unambient guitar tones. So let's get to our sound samples. Let's give the Echofix Spring Reverb a listen. And as a bonus, we were also going to circle back around and compare it to the analog spring inside of the EFX3 as well. As always, before we get into our sound samples, let's go ahead and talk through our signal chain and the context we are working in. I am playing my Milkman St. Vincent Goldie into the 29 Pedals EUNA, the Walrus Audio Mira compressor, the Electronic Audio Experiments Citadel, the 29 Pedals JFET Boost, and the Bondi Effects Sick As. From there, we go to the Echofix Chorus Echo EFX3 tape machine, and then back to our pedal board for the Echofix Spring Reverb and the Chase Bliss Gravitas. From there, we go to our amplifier, the Milkman Beekeeper 18-watt bassman style amplifier, and the Universal Audio aux box. Here is our dry tone. With all knobs at noon, this is the Spring Reverb. So the single biggest character driver in the Spring Reverb is going to be that spring drive. So let's go ahead and start by taking a look at that spring drive control to see how it impacts the resonance of our reverb, the decay of our reverb, and just kind of the overall character of this unit as an analog spring. So I think the most interesting way to start off looking at this spring reverb is going to be by taking a look at that spring drive control, but with our direct turned off, so you can hear really the kind of character of the spring and how that character kind of morphs and becomes more resonant and more present, and it gets and like achieves a longer decay by turning up that spring drive. So let's turn off our direct and play with that spring drive control. And let's give a listen to that EQ control. Had to do it at least once. So we've gone through kind of our core sound samples with this reverb. What I want to do now is kind of change things up a little bit, and we're going to listen to my Echo Fix, the built-in reverb in that as well, because while they are voiced similarly, I don't think they sound the same, and this is clearly a lot more versatile. This gives you that drive and reverb volume combination as well as that 2-band EQ, whereas the reverb in the X3 tape machine is going to be a singular control that kind of controls both drive and volume at the same time. I think it gets dirtier faster than this does, but also offers, like I said, a little bit less in the way of versatility compared to this reverb itself. So let's compare and contrast the two against each other. If you've made it to the end here, thank you so much for watching. If you want to check out more from Echo Fix, I highly recommend you check out my video on the EF-X3, their incredible analog electromagnetic tape echo that I did recently on this channel. I'll link that down below. For more information on the company, you can check out their website. And to help support this channel, you can go check out my Patreon, where you can ask me more questions about gear and join a really cool Discord community I've got. I'll see you next time.